She kept encountering the same fundamental questions, asked in countless different ways about meaning, identity, and how to stay grounded in a rapidly changing world. She created Torah Unlocked and its flagship course, Reshit, to answer them not one at a time, but by teaching the whole picture. The Torah is telling. Her approach is shaped by the Mahalech of the greater minds of our tradition, the Rambam, the Ramban, the Ramchal, the Tanya, and Rav Tzadok, and a conviction that when a person finally sees the entire framework whole, they will find the clarity, the confidence, and tools to channel Hashem's values into the world. And without wanting to waste another second, I really would like to introduce Ms. Esther Wein to start.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Chani. All kavod to all of you for what you guys do. So important. Did you get the handout, Chani? Did everyone get the handout? Now, before we start, how many of you heard the previous class that I gave?
Excellent.
Okay. That would serve as really good background for some of the things we're talking about today. We're not going to repeat it, but you can ask about it, ask how things correspond. All right, so what we're learning today, you have the handout, so I don't have to share my screen.
Oh.
You want me to share my screen? I can.
If you don't mind, I have a lot of technical issues with myself the phone. So if you don't mind, then it's just easier.
Give me
I allowed you.
Perfect. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let me actually bring this over here in front for myself. 1 minute. What's going on here? What are you seeing where it says I am my neshama? You seeing this?
Yes, yes.
I can't bring it over here. Hold on 1 minute. 1 second.
That's perfect.
Okay, but I want to just get it for myself. Hold on a second. Here we go. Now let me make it larger again. Okay, are we good? Yes, everyone can see it? Okay.
Well, everybody can see very cute children at the moment, not words on a paper.
That's what you're seeing? Okay, wait, hold on.
We're seeing some very cute.
Stop sharing for a second and do this again. Okay. Okay. Okay, because I have a couple of screens here, so I moved it over. Okay, now where are we? Where is it? Now, where did it go? No, you're seeing my WhatsApp. Okay, wait. Hold on. Where did it just go? I lost it. Hold on. 1 minute. Give me 1 more second.
I'm so happy you're not good at this, Esther.
I
Because you're
thought I
doing
was.
everything. So I'm really happy you're not good at this.
I thought I was. Hold on. Am I minus Shama? Okay, now let's share it again and let's make sure it's here. Am I this application? Okay, and now can we see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So we talked about last time the idea that the neshama of a person is something we build over time. Do you remember that? Okay. So we talked about the idea that the Torah tells us that there is putting you guys over here, that Hashem breathes into us a nishmas chaim, this breath of life. This is the divine infusion, the divine exhale of Hashem's own, not all of it, but his own life force, his own animating living force. Also Hashem's chokhmah, what's true, knowledge, understanding of what is right and true in the world. Also ratzon, a desire to understand things and to internalize things and to actualize things in the way we live, to actualize Hashem's value system. This is part of the nishmas chaim. We learned about that. And then we learned about the idea that a person develops that potential into a neshama, which is the part of us that lives on after. We all get a neshama to begin with, meaning we use remember the mushal we use, the baby in the womb? And we talk about the placenta and the cord and how that's a really good mushal to help us visualize how every person gets sort of their own cocktail of divine sort of nutrients, chachma and ratzon. And we talked about the idea that everybody gets their own potential, but to develop that potential into something and actualize it, that's our job. Now, I would like to share with you how these ideas are really found right in the beginning of the Torah. They're in the Psukim themselves. All right, we're learning these straight from the Psukim. I wanted to go into two or three Psukim that we're very familiar with and deep into them, so you really have a sense of grasp of what is going on in these Psukim. Okay, so when we start learning about the Hashem's declaration of what sort of thing the human being is, it's the Psukim. It's Perek. This is I don't have the pasuk. It's Perek Aleph pasuk 26 and 27. First parak of Bereshis. And obviously, we would expect Hashem to help us understand ourselves and sort of define us. And this is exactly what Hashem does. He defines us. Hashem says, Nasa Adam B'Tzalmenu Kidmusenu. Not for now, but the plural. Hashem consulted with the Malachim, right? Malachim are forces. In this case, it means Hashem made the laws of genetics. And using the laws of genetics, he creates the humanity, but Hashem, with the malachim, with the forces he created, he said, let's create the Adam. B'Tzalmenu Kidmusenu. Now, that's more than genetics. That's not the physical. There's something more. There's other forces that are coming into play that allow a person to operate as a tselem and in the Demus of Hashem. We're talking about other forces now, okay? Beyond genetical forces. We're talking about forces of that are more abstract, forces of will and capacity. So what we have to do now is we have to define what is the difference between Tselem and Demus. B'Tzalmenu, Kidmusenu. And look at the next pasuk. Suddenly in the next pasuk, the word Demus is dropped. And I'm missing a word here. I'm sorry. It says, Vayivra Elokim es Adam B'Tselem. Okay, B'Tzalmo. Vayivra Elokim es Adam B'Tzalmo. Hashem created the person in his Tselem. B'Tselem Elokim bara also. In the Tselem of Hashem, he created him male and female. So the first pasuk says, let's create B'Tzalmenu Kidmusenu. And the next pasuk says, Vayivra Elokim es Adam B'Tselem. Only in Tselem. What happened to Demus? That's the question. So what is Tselem and what is Demus? And why is Demus dropped in the next pasuk? Okay, so to understand what a Tselem and a Demus is, let's look at the words. This is not in the notes. Tselem comes from the root tsel, shadow. If I'm walking down the street and I see on the road the shadow of an airplane, I am absolutely sure that there is an airplane up above. But I can only make out the general contours of the airplane. It's long, it has things on the side. I can't tell too much, but I see the general contour. The word B'Tsel means in a general sense like God, similar in a very general sense. But a Demus is like a little tiny model airplane. Down every little thing exists in miniature down to the steering wheel, every little seat, the little bins that you put your luggage in. Every little thing is there just in miniature. That's a Demus. So now what does that mean? Now this is all a taste of my course Rashis, which in Mitzvah Hashem I'm launching after Sukkot, where we talk about our relationship with Hashem. And the entire arc of that relationship individually and as Am Yisrael. And we start in the beginning of the course developing what sort of creature we are and what's our spiritual anatomy and physiology. And this is, of course, lesson number 2. This is a little bit of that. Okay. So when we say that we're B'Tsel, all right, we're B'Tsel, we're in the shadow of, we're like a shadow. What we mean here, according to the Nefesh HaChaim and according to the Rambam, we're going to focus on 2 aspects. One, B'Tselem Elokim means we're like God. God is a creator. And we have a tremendous desire to also create something, to express ourselves, to contribute something. We have a desire to contribute something of value to the world, to express our desire to add something significant to the world. and to be appreciated for that. Just like Hashem is a creator and we're supposed to know him and appreciate his creation, we have the same feeling. We're like that. We want to also contribute something, and we want it to be meaningful and significant. And that's the Nefesh HaChaim. And the Rambam tells us that we are endowed with knowledge, with a greater intellectual capacity than every other creature. We have the ability to understand things. Look what's going on in our world. Look what's going on with the laws of physics that people are understanding. The technology is being developed. It's mind-boggling, but yeah, our brains figured it out. This stuff came from the human mind. So we have this tremendous ability to be intelligent, to gain knowledge, and also to express what we know. And hopefully the knowledge we gain and what we express will be worthy, because we can fill our brains with knowledge of terrible things, of meaningless things, of evil things, and then, God forbid, express that. But the Tzelem Elokim means in general, we seek knowledge, we can gain knowledge, and we want to express ourselves. That's the Tzelem, the basic contours of God. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. The Demos is when we take that and we turn it into something that is actually similar to God, which means we use our desire and capacity for knowledge to learn about Hashem's truths. And we continuously gain more and more, and we advance more and more. And then we actualize, we manifest that in ways that are consistent with Hashem's values and Hashem's truth until we're similar to Hashem. Demos is when we take that cell potential and we do something with it that actually resembles God, that we actually come to be like God in our, first of all, understanding of God's truths. That's what we fill our mind with. So we're thinking about the things God, so to speak, thinks about. And we actualize in our real life Hashem's values, Hashem's truths. Then we're in his demos, we're in his likeness. Does that make sense? Okay. Now the Rambam says, you can look back at the sheet, okay? The third quote here, where you see the Rambam in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, you see this right here? Let me see if I can make this bigger. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to zoom out. Can I zoom out here? How do I do that? Where do I go? View here. Full screen. Let's see if we could do that. No, we got that already. How do I make this bigger? I don't know. Okay. You see the Rambam here? Rambam in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah 4:8.
We can see it if you read it. We'll be okay.
It says like this. Rambam is speaking. It's in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah. He says, Nefesh kol basar. The basic nefesh. He is not talking about the nefesh has a lot of, but the nefesh of a person. He tzurasa shenasan lo hakel. This is the tzura that Hashem gave him. A person has a basic tzura, a basic like structure, a basic format of being of existence, which is the tzelem we're really just talking about. Then he says v'hadas hayitzera, but the additional knowledge, hamitzuya, that is found in the nefesh of a person, whose tzuras ha'adam hasholim bedato. Rambam is trying to show you that there's a basic default mode, and then there's extra das. And that extra das makes a person sholim, makes a person whole. So Rambam is telling us here that there seems to be some sort of journey from your basic default mode of potential to your fully actualized mode, which is called ha'adam hasholim bedato, a person who is complete, who really knows things and understands things. Okay. And so we're seeing that there is a journey. There's a journey from tzelem to demos. Is that part clear so far? This journey that we make to go from potential, from potential to reality, okay, is the same thing that we were talking about, that we build our neshama. It's how much we want to take our potential and turn it into, real life. What we think about, what we talk about, what we spend our time and money and energy on, what we prioritize, what we do with ourselves, the kind of person we make ourselves into. That's the work of the neshama. The work of the neshama is the journey from tzelem to demos. Many people, every human being has a tzelem, but it could be misused. It could be neglected. It could be abused. We could fill our minds with all sorts of garbage and then actualize that stuff. Waste our energy expressing that stuff, bringing damage to the world. Okay, but that's only part of the story. That's Perek Aleph. Perek Aleph really defines the Tselem Tadamos journey, the work of building the Neshama. But then we get to Perek Beis. Look at B. There's a whole new description of the human being, and it's nothing like what we just learned in Perek Aleph. Now, this does not mean that there's one and then there's afterwards later, chronologically later another one. No. This is explaining to us the layers of our personality, of what a human being is. So now we get to the physicality of a person. Everything we just talked about was not physical. It was values, it was ideas, it was desire to actualize our potential. That was a whole other set of forces. Now we're getting to the physicality of the human being. Vayitzar Hashem Elokim es ha'adam afar min ha'adam. Dirt of the earth were formed out of dirt, organic matter that disintegrates and decomposes. But vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim, into this clod of earth, there was this exhale, as we have learned already, called the breath of life, the nishmas chayim. Okay, this is not the neshama. This is the breath of life. And then what does it say? Vayhi ha'adam le'nefesh chaya, and the human being was a nefesh chaya, which means the same term used for all the animals. What just happened? This pasuk is telling us that we are made out of organic material. We are physical, okay? And our physicality is very similar to the animals. We can transplant pig hearts and the various parts of the, of animal biology into us for when we need to, right? We test everything on animals because we're similar. All right. But in this animal body, which has its own drives and instincts and appetites, there is this breath of life. This breath of life, let's review a little bit what we talked about. It gives life, physical life to our bodies. But it does much more than that. It's that breath of life or the divine exhale, this infusion from Hashem into us. If we want to, Rambam says it's in our hands in Moreh Nevuchim. It's up to us. If we want to, we can draw down that breath that's infusing us. We can draw down all sorts of powers that are greater than physical. They're intellectual, they're ideas, they're understandings, they're epiphanies, their strength, their resilience, their emunah, their kochos, all sorts of powers to not just give us physical strength, but spiritual strength. This Nishmas Chaim is referring back to Perek Aleph. This is the breath of life that takes us from Tselem to Demos. This is the potential that we have to draw down into our human finite minds more and more and more connection to God that gives us not just physical life, gives us emotional strength, spiritual life. This is referring back to Perek Aleph. And if we do something with this breath of life, then we can go from Tselem to Demos. We got to do something with this breath of life, with this force that is flowing from God to us, which is with this shefa. We got to do something with it. Now look at Kli Yakar. Let's read it in English. He's commenting on this pasuk. He says, even though Hashem infused into man the intelligent thinking breath of life, nevertheless, at the beginning of his existence, man was merely a standard living being, nefesh chaya, like the other animals, as it is written. Quotes a pasuk from Eov, for man is born a wild ass. The essence of his perfection is dependent on his diligence, effort, and good choice when he opens the eyes of his intellect as he matures. But at the start of his existence, even though the breath of the Nishmas Chaim, right, the breath of life has already been breathed into him, the neshama is not in him in actuality, only in potential. If he does not gird his loins with diligence to go forth at the head of the front lines to fight the war of Hashem, he remains in his animality and is likened to a beast. meaning the neshama is something we have to cultivate. When we say everyone has a neshama, we mean everyone has their own little cocktail of potential. Different people are capable of understanding different things. Some are math people, some are emotionally intelligent, some understand, science, spaces and movements. Some people understand communication, and everybody's different. We all have a different packet from HaKadosh Baruch Hu of Chachma and how we personally can actualize things, how we can put our little fingerprint on Hashem's world. We all have different cocktail, different way. That's called a neshama. But the real neshama is what we do with it, how we take it from potential to development. Okay, does this make sense so far? So now the first part is that we've established that in the Torah itself, we are literally being told that there is a journey that we can undertake, and it requires us to connect to and draw down this breath of life from God, this shefa, this flow, and it's in our hands to do it. And if we don't do it, we are like the animals. And if we do it, we're like the angels. Okay? This is Bechira. It doesn't specifically say Bechira, but this is Bechira. Now, our class is called Am I My Neshama? And the answer is, it depends. It depends. If we identify with that Nishmas Chaim and use it to go from Tzelem to Demus, to keep learning, to keep trying to become similar to God by knowing his values and his truths and opening our mind and filling it with ideas. And the more we then live from those ideas, we have more and more of a neshama. We are more identified with the Nishmas Chaim. That's who we are, and that's what we value, and that's what makes our life meaningful, and that's what we spend our time on. So yeah, then we are connected to our neshama. We're building our neshama. But if we forget about this whole thing and just live in the moment, we are very, very disconnected from whatever little teeny bit of neshama potential we were given. And we're certainly not our neshama. Now, every single day, we make it clear that we are not automatically our neshama. We say, Elokai neshama shanasata bi. There's a neshama, and there's bi. The neshama you put in me. We are not the same. Or we say, Modani lefanecha melchavi yom shechazarta bi nishmasi. You gave me my neshama. So it's not the same. Notice that both tefillos, okay, when we appreciate that Hashem returned the soul or gave us a soul, we say these when we wake up. Why? Because only when we're thinking, only when we're consciously connecting to this potential we have and what we're going to do with it, can we say that the neshama is in me. Does that make sense? Otherwise, it's not in me. I mean, it's hovering somewhere, but I have no connection to it. It's there as if, it's waiting for something, but nothing's happening. So we only say these things when we're awake because it requires conscious choice to put that neshama in me, and I begin to identify it. So now we're going to talk about choice. So in my mind, neshama, it all depends on Bechira. So now we're going to talk about Bechira. And we're going to specifically identify the 3 challenges that we must contend with when we are trying to make a good choice. Okay? Number 1, in order to make a good choice. Okay, let me back up. Okay, let me back up. We tend to think that Bechira, what do we tend to think Bechira is, right? We tend to think that Bechira is this non-stop running, like tug of war, right? Conflict that we live with every single day between what I want to do in the moment and what I should do, what's right. And it's this constant, never-ending sense of, well, certainly not peace of mind, but constant like tension, constant tug of war. And we're always trying to force ourselves to do what's right or justify that we didn't. This is not a good way to live. Nobody is supposed to live in a constant state of stress, tension, as we said, tug of war. Nobody's supposed to live like that. It drains your energy. It depletes your joy in life. It's just annoying. And it's not even right. It's not even healthy. Instead of having tug of war, what we're really supposed to do is make one big choice in life. We're going to call it the one big choice. And that one big choice is to identify, like Perek Aleph, I am a person invested with some aspect of Hashem's Chachma and Ratzon to express myself, and I'm going to do the right thing with it. I'm locking into my identity as being on the Tselem to Demus journey. One big choice. You know, when an athlete decides they're training for the Olympics, they make one big choice. They do not wake up every morning and renegotiate with themselves if they're going to eat cake, if they're going to sleep late, if they're not going to train. They don't do that. They made one big choice and that's it. And then they just measure, is every other thing either in line with my big choice, one big choice, or it's not. That's it. Everything is measured against the one big choice. Does this help me get there, or is this not going to help me get there? That's it. So my grandfather used to say, you handcuff yourself to Hashem and you throw away the key. That's called making the one big choice. Now, what are the three things that we need to know in order to be able to make the one big choice? So we can say, yes, I am my neshama. Yes, I am. Number one. So like we learned last week, we have to always remember our context, the baby and the mother. Number one, we are not alone. We are not living here on our own in this big overwhelming world trying to figure out how we're going to survive with only ourselves to turn to. Okay, competing with everybody else? No. Number one, Ata Harei Saladas. Moshe reminds us what we saw on Har Sinai, that there's only Hashem, like the mother, and there's nothing else, and we're part of that, and we're in that, and that's who we are, and that's our context, and we don't have to worry about every single thing, like we could be worrying our heads off right now about Trump and this flip-flop and flip around he's doing and throwing Israel under the bus and all that kind of stuff, but we live in within a greater reality, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu arranges things, and we have to know who we are and stay aligned with that. That's our strongest koach, much stronger than all the pharaohs in the world, and all the Trumps in the world, and all the Putins in the world, and everybody else. Okay, remember what Miriam said to her father? You're going to take Pharaoh's command. You think because he commanded it that to throw the boys in the river, that's it? That's it? You're going to not have children like that? His command is as you know, determines everything. What if he's dead tomorrow? Like, just keep doing what you got to do. Okay. So that's number one. In order to make the one big choice, in order to make the one big choice, number one, we have to always remember our context of our true identity, where we are, what's real. Not to be scared and distracted and overwhelmed by what things look like in the womb, but always remember the bigger picture. That's number one. But there is a very big challenge. We don't see Hashem, and sometimes we forget, and sometimes we do just think that things are the way we see them right here, under what I call the machitza, the wall between the baby and the mother. We open our eyes here in our world, and we say, well, look, this is what's going on. This is reality. And we forget about the mother. Okay, so Torah gives us about 1 trillion opportunities to always remember our mother, okay? All mitzvahs constantly. So hopefully we can overcome that challenge of like forgetting. But there's another big challenge, a very big challenge. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu ran this world in a way that was always coherent, noise. Definite noise in the background. Can you guys hear it? 50 Young Rice, I think there's noise in your background. Can you mute yourself? Okay, so now, if Hashem always ran the world in a super coherent way, we would have very little bechira. Somebody broke Shabbos, they got zapped. Okay, we'd have very little bechira. The fact is that Hashem does not run the world that way. All right. There's something called din is like black and white right away, but there's something called rachamim. The word rachamim comes from rechem, the womb, machar, tomorrow. Hashem puts a pause between the action and the consequence. That's called rachamim. You break Shabbos, nothing happens. You treif, nothing happens. Like literally nothing. right? That we can tell. Hashem puts a pause. It's called Rachman. And we don't see what's really going on. But that's all hidden with Hashem runs the world in a way that his will is hidden from us. He doesn't show his will. And we only get to see what we can see. And what we see seems like, hey, you know what? You could do what you want here. So that's another issue where Bechira becomes challenging, because we could fool ourselves and really think, there's so much Rachamim, we'll get away with it, or this can't possibly be important to God, because the way we see things doesn't seem to be too dangerous, to worrisome to do what we want to do. Okay, that's another issue. What's our protection against that? Again, Torah, we've learned Torah, that Torah tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us time, and he gives us patience, and he lets us have time to do tshuva, and don't fool yourself. It's still bad. Don't make mistakes. Don't take Hashem for granted. Okay, so let's get to the third one, which is the most challenging of all. The biggest and most challenging thing of all. It's called the Chet Eitz Hadas. It's not that we forget our mother, and it's not that Hashem gives us pauses between actions and consequences. Something much more powerful going on. That's not a theory. Those two things are theories. This is real. This is visceral. The whole story of the Chet Eitz Hadas, in a nutshell, without going into it in detail, is that we allow ourselves to believe that the way we see things is truth. The way we see things is truth. Now, who's telling us that? That the way I interpret things here, when I open my physical eyes in the womb and forget about my mother, and I take advantage of the pauses that Hashem puts between action and consequence. So I open my eyes here and I say, let me see how I see things. And the way I see things means what makes sense to me is highly, highly, highly influenced by what I want. By my sensual stimuli, by my taivas, by my Yetzer Hara, by the cultural messages, by my traumas, by whatever movie I just saw. What I want, which means how then I will see things, is highly subjective and can never be trusted. It's because I invent it. And who's talking to me? And who's telling me that it's okay for me to invent my own story here? It's our bodies and what we want and our emotions. This is the hardest thing. This is the hardest thing, that we're going to think that as we learn from the Eitz Hadas, eyes are going to open. You're going to say, I'm God. I got this. I can see the truth. I know what's good and bad. This is the hardest challenge to Bechira. Subjectivity. We justify things. We use our intelligence that Hashem gave us to go from Tselem to Demus, to justify the nefesh chaya, the animal voice inside of us. And not only to justify it, we insist that it's our true voice. It's our true voice. Let's talk about this, because this is so relevant to what is happening today. Okay, I'm going to stop the share for a second. All right. Okay. Let's talk about this because it's so relevant. Today, there's such a movement in society to peel away the layers, find your true self, listen to your inner voice, right? Have you heard this stuff? Like, you tell me, you unmute yourselves. What are some of the messages along these lines?
When people say, this is my truth.
Truth. How do they find their truth?
My truth. It's not yours, but it's mine. And it's like, oh, that's totally subjective.
How did they find their truth? Exactly. What did they do?
Any number of things. And it's a very weird world out there. Very, very.
Tell you they listened to their true inner voice, right? They found their true inner voice, right? Okay. So what's happening in the Eitz, this is the Eitz Hadas story. Does a person have a true inner voice? Let's analyze this, because this is where Bechira gets so complicated. Yeah, we do. We have a deep, deep, true inner voice. What is that voice? That is the voice of the Nishmas Chaim. That is the voice of Hashem's own truths and Hashem's own ratzon in us. It's in there. There's no question about it. It's in there. Okay.
The messages are coming from Hashem that are feeding that thing within us. It's not coming from nowhere.
Right. So let's sort it out. David HaMelech says, Libi Amar Li. Okay. Let me say the whole passage. David HaMelech says, L'cha Amar Libi. For you, Hashem, my own heart is saying, Bakshu Panai. In other words, the one that's telling me to search for you, Hashem, is my own heart, speaking as your agent. Inside myself, you're already speaking through my heart, telling me, seek me. L'cha, for you, Amar Libi, my heart says, Bakshu Panai, seek my face. The voice I'm hearing is you, Hashem, in my own heart, saying, seek me. So there is no question we have an inner voice that comes originally from that Nishmas Hayim, that breath of life Hashem infused in us. Okay? No question about it. However, the whole story of the Eitz Hadas in the beginning of the Torah is to teach us how that inner voice can be hijacked, it could be covered up, it could be silenced, and a new voice takes over instead. And it says, I'm your true voice. I'm your true voice. Listen to me. And that is the voice that doesn't say seek Hashem, the voice that says, you are God. You know what's right. What you're feeling, what you want, it's good for you. And then we hijack the brain, and the brain comes up with rationalizations why it's good for us and says, I'm the true voice. That's exactly what the Nachash said. You're like God. You know what's good and bad. You don't have to seek God. Just listen to your voice, your own voice. But that isn't the voice of God. That is the voice of our imagination, in the grip of our taivas, of our sensual stimuli, in the grip of cultural messages, in the grip of our traumas, in the grip of our desires in the moment, which were generated by all sorts of various prompts, whatever we saw, whoever we talked to, whatever book we read, whatever we're feeling, whatever that, and it's parading around as our true voice. It's claiming to be the voice of God. And we can make it a very simple mistake and believe it. That's the whole story of the Eitz Hadas. So then the layers we peel away are the layers of the messages that are, covering, as we said, the true voice. So where Bechira becomes complicated is like this. I don't want to live in tug of war. I mean, let me say, it's really where Bechira becomes simplified, not complicated. Okay? It takes away the complications. Number one, I don't want to live in a tug of war between some deep, deep, deep true inner voice, and then the louder inner voice covering up the true deep inner voice, the true voice of Hashem's Ratzon covered up by another voice that's claiming to be, right? So I don't want to live in that tug of war between the two voices. I want to make the one big choice. In order to make the one big choice to say, that's it, I am on a journey from Tselem to Demos. That's called my neshama. I'm building my neshama. In order to make that one big choice, I got to have a few things. Number one, I cannot open my eyes and imagine that my perception of how things look is the whole story. I step back and I realize that there's a way bigger picture. We all know this. Kadosh Baruch Hu moving things around, putting us in different circumstances. And my job is to fill my mind, not with what it's saying to me automatically, because I can't trust that, but to fill my mind with Torah true ideas and Torah true values. What that requires is some other person who's objective, another person to talk to who's going to be objective and help us see when we are not objective, when we are being subjective. So we are to build our neshama. The first thing we have to do is be on guard for our fake true voice, our subjective voice that's trying to justify what we want anyway, that's telling us to believe whatever it's telling us, to be very, very cautious of that. Because although there is a Hashem, a little bit of Ruach HaKodesh in every person, the Sefer Ikrim and the Kuzari, they say, be so careful because it's buried. It's literally buried. That's the Eitz Hadas under so many other layers and voices. And to sort it out is to be pure, to get to that literally pure, pure depth. And what that requires is an extreme level of objectivity. Let's bring this final idea out. Another word for being objective about what's our true essence. Okay, another word, a word that was introduced more in Hasidus, is called bittul, which in the end, when we die, we're all but. That's what it is. It's bittul. It's complete bittul. So what does it mean? What is bittul? To the degree that a person makes themselves the measure of all things, the way I see things is true, the way how I want things to play out in my life is legitimate. My rationalizations and justifications are legitimate. Okay, I want things on my terms. I am the measure of all things. I decide what's good and bad in my world. Okay, I get to set up my life according to my values, right? As much as the person is the center of attention, is the measure of all things, they know they have no value. Because if in this whole wide, huge world of billions of people, and there's a billion people, each one saying, I'm the measure of all things, I am the center of everything, then there's no truth. Then nothing matters. It's called, nothing has any value. Everybody thinks their little tiny self is the center of all things. And they come and they go, they're all meaningless. Everybody, that's complete, is entering a state of meaninglessness. However, when a person says, I am attached, I'm part of the mother, right? And I'm channeling the mother's chachma and the mother's ratzon into this world in my special way, according to my particular personality. I'm putting my imprint, my little fingerprint on Hashem's world. So it's Hashem's world, and I'm increasing it and enhancing it, but it has my little fingerprint on it, the little piece I added. Okay, so now I'm working for God. I am part of something big. I'm not putting my meaningless fingerprint on it. I'm putting Hashem's fingerprint on it, but through me. So suddenly when I'm mevatel, and I don't see things subjectively, I stand back and I say, how do I channel God? Then suddenly I have value. Suddenly I mean something. Suddenly I have a role to play. Suddenly I'm connected to eternity. Suddenly I matter. Suddenly I'm significant in a real way. So Bechira is the choice to make the one big choice, to be mevatel. Now, that doesn't mean I'm meaningless. It means I will take all my kochos. I will build my neshama. I will be my neshama. I will take the unique cocktail of talents, of strengths, of individuality Hashem poured into me, the way my mind works, the way I'm capable of understanding things, my particular style, and my particular ability to express myself. I'll take that. And I'll build it. I'll develop it. That's called my neshama. And I'll channel God in this world, in which case I finally have a makom. I belong. I have a significance. The bittul actually makes a person so eternally significant. So to put it all together, am I my neshama? It depends on if I make the one big choice and I do something with my potential. In order to do something with my potential, I got to get myself out of the way and all those voices that are fake, that pretend to be real, and I got to get to the real voice. And the only way to get to the real voice is bittul. And bittul doesn't mean that I'm nothing. It's the extreme opposite. Now I'm somebody. So am I my neshama? Yes, I'm my neshama because I'm on a journey from Tzelem to Demus, because I'm a vatel to the bigger story, and I'm making that one big choice. And now I know that I am secure. I am connected. I am living. I am building my neshama. And as we learned, the neshama is the only part of us that, of course, lives on after, right? Okay. Questions? Yeah, go for it.
Okay, no. So, could you say then that egoism is the opposite of that bittul, where I am the thing? In other words, it would mean really choosing not to be the big question, or the big commitment wouldn't be towards Hashem, it would be towards myself. Is that kind of one way to look at it?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just what people call ego. I think, is what people call ego is, I think, the grandkids is when the person says, "I am the measure of all things." But again, very important. Bittul does not mean I'm insignificant. You understand that, right? It's the extreme opposite. It's the only thing that gives us significance.
Yeah.
Okay.
In what way?
Because it means I'm channeling Hashem. If I'm just channeling myself, we're irrelevant. We're one of tens of billions of people that came and went and nobody cares. If I'm just channeling myself, my particular needs and interests for the moment, I'm alive, who cares? But one channeling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now I'm significant. Now I'm using all my kochos, I'm recognizing my kochos, and I'm using them for emes, for something real. To channel Hashem's chachma and Hashem's what's true and what Hashem's values and what Hashem wants into the world. Now I matter. Now I'm playing a real role. Now I'm not the measure of things. Hashem is the measure of things, and I'm the agent through whom Hashem is speaking, through whom Hashem is acting. Now I'm significant.
I think that's one of the things we come across when we're at the bedside of someone who's dying. We really see that all that stuff falls away. And they finally realize the bittul. And that's when you get those moments of significance and those moments of emotion, and where people really, really tap into their neshama.
Yeah, we don't want that moment to be, mostly regret.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, yeah.
I think if people age, I think it also becomes it falls off till hopefully that we'll have the MS and clarity.
I've noticed a few times, I've seen it. I mean, the people that literally lose everything, like actually lose everything, that they've been through so much. Somehow I've seen it many times. I mean, a handful of times, because I don't know so many people who lost everything, but I do know some. And they seem to have a level of connection and peace and a sense of, value of their relationship with Hashem and what they can do in that relationship when everything else is gone. And it's astonishing. And love, and a certain like menuchas hanefesh. It's amazing. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, so good to see you. I think we could also bring it to another level as new doulas that we're in and feel like, oh, maybe I'm not capable of doing it, or I don't know what I'm doing. But just to know that Hashem is bringing us to this new thing, that we have the capacity to do it, and we're stepping forward, and Hashem is with us. So we're going to do a good job, and not be, afraid or doubtful or whatever. So I just wanted to say that.
Very nice, because this infusion of what we call the divine exhale, or the nishmas chaim, this infusion of Hashem's life force. If we are mevatel, we get ourselves out of the way, it could flow into us, and it flows through us, because
and sometimes I really feel it when I'm with these people, and so yeah. Thank you.
Any questions here, people? No?
Give us one exercise, if you don't mind, like to help us
Okay.
into that.
Yeah. Picture this. Okay. You're sleeping. A stranger appears at the end of your bed. Okay. And the stranger says, I'm going to take every single thing away from you that you call yours. I'm going to take away your possessions, your home, country you live in, all your people that you are part of, your family, your relationships, all your money. I'm going to take it all away from you. You're going to be left with absolutely nothing, just your consciousness, just your self, just your identity. Okay? Who are you when everything else is taken away? Who are you? That is the answer, because that stranger at the end of the bed comes for everyone. It comes for all of us. Who are we when everything that we define ourselves by is no longer there? And this is where we have to start thinking about our nishmas chaim and what we do with it. and our ability to channel in whatever circumstances we're in, right? So think about things that we identify with as we go through, we identify how you think about, make a list, all the things I identify as part of me. And how connected are they to my Nishmas Chaim and what I'm doing with my Nishmas Chaim, my Tzelem to Demus journey?
Esther, you've made me cry. Which is always a good thing. I think that this could be part of our journaling that we learn about to write these things down. Reb Zoldan wants to ask something. Your hand is up.
Yeah, Aviva. I just want to ask you the non-Bechira aspect choices. Then, I remember being bas mitzvah and I thought, okay, great, I'm just not going to do anything wrong from now on. Like, what are all the choices that are okay, not Bechira? What are they then?
Oh, the non-Bechira choices?
I mean, everything. We can decide to be, to want to do everything right. Where do we go from there?
So it's so very good. Okay, so once we make the one big choice, which is really our avoda every day. Anytime, you know what, this is a good challenge. Anytime you feel yourself in that tug of war, stop. You're not supposed to be in a tug of war. You're supposed to be in one big choice, and that generally resolves a lot of the tug of wars. Okay, and then the tug of wars go on to a much higher level, like between good and things like that. But here's a very important piece. First of all, once we make the one big choice, again, a lot of little things are resolved. There are certain things that are autopilot. We've already made the one big choice. Shabbos is not a question. Kashrus is not a question. It's like autopilot. That's not Bechira. There's also in terms of Bechira, there's certain things that at certain stages in our life are just too hard for us to overcome. They're just, Rav Dessler talks about it, the Nakudas of Bechira. They're just beyond their capacity in the moment to make that one big choice and say no to whatever it is that is pulling at us, okay? There's a beautiful, deep idea I want to share with you that you brought up, because from what you brought up. What are bad choices? Rambam says people can choose good or bad, and that's true on an operational level. We can choose good or bad, but on a deeper level, it's not so simple. The whole entire koach of choosing comes from Hashem. Hashem invested us with his ability to choose how to express ourselves, right? Hashem gave us this koach, like him, Tzelem like him, to express ourselves. He gave us the ability to choose what we're going to do with the potential he gave us. But Hashem only expresses himself latov. So how could it be that when we take that koach and use it for ra, we're similar to God. We're choosing. God doesn't choose like that. Choosing itself is part of our similarity to God. So choosing bad is still similar to God. What does that even mean? Can't be. So the Yad HaMelech, which is a pirush on the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva Perek 5, says, no. The only choice we ever make is to choose good, to make the one big choice. Everything else, what we call bad choices, sin, that's not choice. That is declining to choose. That's being too weak to choose. That is misusing or neglecting our capacity to choose. It means we just, you know what it means? The nefesh chaya. Remember the nefesh chaya in the beginning? The nefesh chaya is in control. The animal instinct's in control, and we're not choosing at all. There's only one choice possible, the one big choice. If we're not making that choice and we're in the grip of our passions and the nefesh chaya is speaking loud and we're giving into it, we're not making any choices. It's
being distracted, no, Esther?
What?
We're being distracted.
Distracted, overwhelmed, but you know what? Allowing that hijack to happen regularly is a chait. Allowing ourselves to be so hijacked by our passions, our emotions, our imagination gone wild, so that we can't make the one big choice, that's the chait. So really in life, what makes a person a Tzelem Elokim is choosing. that we choose how we're going to express ourselves, what das, what knowledge we're going to channel into this world, what truths we're going to channel into this world. And if we don't operate like a person who's choosing to channel Hashem's Chachma into the world, Hashem's emes into the world, we're not choosing at all. We're neglecting our entire divine potential. We're just animals living off instinct. And Rambam says in the beginning, we're much, much, much worse than animals, because animals take their whatever intellect they're given and they just try to survive. Whereas the humans take that gift of intelligence and expression and misuse it and allow themselves to descend into the world of survival of the fittest and then use it for evil. And there, because he says it's much worse than animals.
I'm going to just be cognizant of the time, and thank you, Esther, for this amazing share.
Okay, everyone. Yes, it's late. You can always WhatsApp me with questions or whatever. Okay.
Thank you.
I had a question, but my camera's not working.
You can WhatsApp Esther. I'm going to be cognizant of the time.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you so much.
For everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
But it's fine.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Anybody who wants to stay on can stay on. I can't breathe.
Wow. I heard Esther's first share like 2 hours ago. That blew me away, and now it's like, wow.
Yeah, and she builds on this. This is her
I want to do her course. I really feel it would help my work. Do you have the information, or?
Yeah, I'll get you the information. It's phenomenal. Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yes, thank you for arranging it, Khani. Everybody really, Khani arranged this, so thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you, Linda. And we're going to send it out, the recording, and you can all, send it to your people or watch it again.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Feel good.
To see you twice today.
Huh?
I got to see you twice today.
Yes.
Oh, lucky you.
And Linda too.
We shall have a Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov.
Amen. Chodesh Tov.
Oh, well.